Evening spread slowly over the quiet village, lanterns glowing in windows, doors closing gently, and children's laughter faded into whispers as stars began stitching light across the deepening sky. The cobblestone lane carried the sound of footsteps, steady and unhurried, while hearth fires warmed homes, their smoke curling upward, mingling with the cool breath of approaching night. Along the lane, an old traveler walked with care, lantern swinging gently, its glow reflecting upon walls, guiding him past familiar cottages wrapped already in silence and rest. Fields stretched wide beyond the village, where wheat swayed softly, bending beneath the evening breeze, and the traveler paused to watch shadows lengthen across the tender hillsides. A cart rolled homeward, wheels murmuring against stones, pulled by a tired horse whose breath rose faintly, as if the entire countryside was preparing itself for rest. The traveler tipped his hat to a farmer, closing his gate, their exchange wordless yet full of understanding, as neighbors often shared unspoken trust in such peaceful hours. Beyond the fields, a wooden bridge waded across the river, its planks worn smooth by countless feet, promising safe passage toward the meadow glowing faintly in moonlight. Water beneath whispered against the stones, silver in the gathering dark, carrying distant echoes from mountains, reminding the traveler that even restless streams eventually find their quiet sea. He crossed slowly, boots steady upon the creaking wood, lantern lighting each step, the sound of water beneath steadying his heart like a lullaby sung long ago. On the far bank, grass stretched tall, rustling softly. Fireflies began to rise in gentle arcs, their small lamps teaching the darkness how to move patiently. The traveler paused, watching their quiet dance, feeling his own pace ease, every concern folding into silence, as though the meadow itself insisted upon gentle forgetting. A narrow path led him onward, bordered by hedges, alive with crickets, their chorus unending, carrying him forward like invisible hands, guiding him toward rest and safety. The moon climbed higher, spilling silver light upon the road, painting the trees in calm shapes, and each step felt lighter, as though the night itself carried him. He passed a weathered milestone, numbers worn faint, reminding him how many travelers had once walked this road before, each seeking comfort, each finding rest along the way. The air grew cooler, touched by the river's breath, yet it wrapped gently around his shoulders, more a blanket than a chill, more comfort than burden. Ahead, the outline of a cottage appeared, roof dark against the sky, windows glowing warmly, promising shelter, food, and peace to anyone who reached its inviting door. Smoke curled steadily from the chimney, carrying the scent of wood and bread, pulling him closer, until his lantern was no longer needed to light the way. He stepped onto the stone path, boots brushing against lavender planted long ago, and the fragrance rose, a gentle welcome, reminding him he had finally reached home. The door opened with a creak of kindness, not complaint, and warmth flowed outward, carrying with it the hush of a room prepared for weary travelers. Inside, a kettle sang softly, chairs sat waiting, and quilts rested folded upon a bed, each detail promising that night's journey was ending in safety and calm. The traveler set his lantern beside the door, its flame flickering briefly before resting, as though it too had reached the end of its faithful journey. He loosened the straps of his boots, feeling the weight of the road slip away, replaced by the simple relief of standing safely within warm walls. The table held bread wrapped in cloth, cheese upon a wooden plate, and a small jar of honey catching the glow of firelight in its golden depths. He broke the bread, its crust crackling softly, and the taste carried him back to childhood kitchens, where family laughter once rose with the scent of baking loaves. A chair near the hearth waited, its arms worn smooth by years of use, and he lowered himself gratefully, feeling wood and memory cradle him together. Flames shifted within the hearth, shadows dancing across the cottage walls, painting them with quiet stories too old for words, yet still full of warmth and welcome. Outside, the meadow hushed further, fireflies drifting like distant stars, while the crickets played their steady rhythm, joining the evening's chorus as guardians of calm and sleep. He sipped warm tea, steam rising gently, carrying the fragrance of herbs gathered earlier that season, each swallow loosening the knots of worry still hidden deep inside. The walls of the cottage seemed to breathe with him, expanding and settling, their silence agreeing to hold his rest, just as they had for travelers before. He thought briefly of the road behind, of faces seen and places passed, yet each memory softened quickly, dissolving into the comfort of the fire's glow. Beyond the window, the moon leaned higher, silver light spilling into the room, mingling with firelight until both together wrapped him safely in their blended embrace. The sound of the river still reached his ears, distant yet steady, as if whispering reassurance that nothing restless remained, only patient waters flowing toward peace. His eyes traced the shelf above the hearth, where books rested beside candles, their spines worn from many hands, each volume waiting to share its quiet companionship. He chose one, pages yellowed and soft, words flowing gently beneath his gaze, not demanding thought, only offering a slow rhythm steady enough to match his breathing. The kettle sighed again upon the fire, steam curling upward, then fading, like a reminder that all things release their weight when the moment arrives. He leaned back, the chair embracing him, and let the book fall closed, the story within unfinished yet complete, because rest had already written its own ending. Outside, the wind shifted through the trees, branches bowing and swaying, their movement not urgent but musical, a reminder that the world keeps watch through the night. The floor creaked kindly as he crossed to the bed, quilts waiting, folded, promising warmth stitched by patient hands long before he ever reached this place. He lay down slowly, listening as silence thickened, settling over him like snow, yet softer, warmer, until thought itself began dissolving into the rhythm of breath. The final sound he heard was the crackle of embers, steady and kind, before sleep welcomed him fully, carrying him where dreams begin their gentle work. Outside, the village grew completely still, only the faint call of an owl reminding the fields that watchful guardians remained while dreamers surrendered to rest. The river's song softened further, weaving with the hush of grass and trees, as though even the elements conspired together to guard every sleeping soul. Stars gathered in quiet constellations, their light spilling gently across rooftops and hillsides, reminding the land that the universe itself was keeping vigil during these hours. In the cottage, embers glowed faintly, casting warm orange halos upon the walls, like a final promise that no shadow would trouble the traveler tonight. He shifted once beneath the quilt, its weight steady as a hand resting kindly on his shoulder, assuring him he was no longer alone. His breathing slowed, matched to the rhythm of crickets, until his chest rose and fell like tides, the entire room rocking gently with every exhaled sigh. Outside, branches stirred, their leaves brushing each other softly, making sounds like whispers, though they carried no secrets. Only the reassurance of night speaking without words. The moon climbed higher still, its silver reflection stretching across the river, a path of light that invited dreams to wander freely between sky and earth. Sleep deepened, carrying him away from the cottage walls, beyond the meadow, across bridges and fields, until he felt himself lighter than footsteps upon dust. The fire's last sparks drifted upward, fading like thoughts no longer needed, each spark extinguishing gently as his mind loosened from the knots of waking life. Within dreams, the traveler still walked, though his lantern was gone, replaced by stars, guiding his steps along roads unmarked, roads belonging only to the quiet heart. Meadows opened again before him, flowers swaying in slow rhythm, their fragrance wrapping around his senses, assuring him he had crossed into a land meant entirely for rest. The river returned, but its waters now moved slower, each ripple stretching longer, wider, until the sound itself became the steady breath of the sleeping earth. A gate appeared along his path, wooden and familiar, hinges silent, inviting him through into orchards filled with fruit trees glowing faintly in borrowed moonlight. He reached for an apple, its skin cool beneath his hand, and the taste carried him deeper, sweet and unhurried, into places only dreams could show. In the orchard, benches waited beneath branches, worn smooth by countless dreamers who had paused there before him, each leaving behind silence as a gift for others. Birds rested above him, their feathers tucked, their eyes closed, yet he sensed even their stillness was part of the watchfulness guarding this dream-filled land. Lanterns appeared in the orchard, not lit by fire, but glowing softly from within, each one pulsing like a heartbeat, guiding him onward without effort. He followed their gentle light between rows of trees, each step slower, each thought lighter, until nothing remained except the comfort of being fully carried by night. When the orchard ended, the path opened wide to a meadow of quiet grasses, stretching endlessly, ready to hold every traveler who longed for rest. The meadow spread beneath an endless sky, its grasses bending softly with the night breeze, creating a rhythm that matched perfectly with the steady rise and fall of breath. Fireflies drifted again across the open field, their small lamps weaving patterns, not hurried but deliberate, as though showing the way to anyone willing to move slowly. The traveler followed their glowing trail, each flicker guiding him forward, not with urgency, but with kindness, reminding him that true journeys are measured only in gentle steps. Along the edges of the meadow, tall oaks stood rooted and patient, their wide branches curved like guardians, sheltering the quiet ground beneath from restless winds. He paused, touching the rough bark of one ancient tree, feeling the grooves beneath his palm, a reminder of years endured, years still standing with calm strength. Beyond the trees, a small pond reflected the sky, its surface smooth as polished glass, broken only by circles where fish rose to sip the moonlight. He bent low, cupping his hand in the cool water, and when he drank, it seemed to carry away weariness, leaving him lighter than before. The pond shimmered as he stood again, ripples spreading outward like rings of memory, touching reeds and stones, then fading back into silence as quickly as they began. A narrow path curved away from the pond, bordered by wildflowers, their petals bending toward him, as if nodding a soft welcome to their nighttime visitor. He followed, brushing past blossoms fragrant with evening dew, each step carrying him further into a world arranged not for toil, but for rest and release. A nightingale sang faintly from within the hedges, its song delicate yet sure, each note stitching calm into the fabric of air surrounding the traveler's unhurried path. Stars overhead seemed to pause in their courses, leaning closer, their light brightening gently, as though listening to the song or offering accompaniment too quiet for words. The road widened, leading him into another meadow, this one dotted with haystacks, their outlines rounded and familiar, reminding him of fields once worked beneath summer suns. He remembered days of harvest, sweat upon his brow, laughter from companions. And though those memories carried labor, they softened now, transformed into warmth within the night. He touched one haystack as he passed, the straw coarse beneath his fingers, its scent mingling with earth and grass, comforting him with the simplicity of honest work. Ahead, a wooden fence marked the meadow's end, its rails weathered gray, yet straight, standing patiently as though guiding travelers forward without blocking their chosen way. He placed his hand upon the top rail, climbed easily over, and landed gently, the sound of boots softened by soil that welcomed every step. The land beyond sloped downward toward a valley where a stream wound silver through tall grass, its waters whispering steadily, more lullaby than river, more cradle than current. He descended slowly, feeling the slope carry him, each step less burden, each breath deeper, until he reached the stream's edge and knelt to watch its shining course. The stream's voice blended with the night, repeating itself without end, not insistent but eternal, promising that time itself had slowed to match the calm of this journey. The lane narrowed as fields gave way to hedgerows, their branches weaving overhead, shaping a tunnel of shadow and moonlight, where every step carried the traveler deeper into stillness. Crickets filled the hush with their endless chorus, 1,000 small voices rising together, reminding him that even the smallest creatures could sing peace into the wide night. The air cooled as he walked, carrying scents of cut hay and damp soil, each breath easing the last traces of weariness from his shoulders and chest. An owl glided silently across the road ahead, wings stretched wide, vanishing into the dark with only a whisper, as though guiding him onward without asking for thanks. He paused beside a weathered gate, running his hand across its rough wood, feeling grooves carved by seasons, each mark a quiet testament to endurance and patience. Beyond the gate, pastures stretched into gentle hills, where sheep lay gathered in clusters, their stillness so complete it seemed they too had surrendered fully to night. The path wound slowly upward, gravel shifting beneath his boots, but the climb felt easy beneath stars, their calm brightness lending strength where fatigue had once lingered. He reached the crest and looked back, seeing the village lanterns far below, their tiny sparks clustered like constellations, proof that warmth remained even in distance. Ahead, the land opened toward meadows, silvered by moonlight, grasses bending together with the wind, their movement like waves upon the sea, steady and unbroken across the valley. A fox darted from the underbrush, quick and silent, its tail brushing dew from wildflowers, before vanishing into the field, a fleeting reminder of life awake at night. The traveler followed the path downward, his lantern now dim beside the glow of the moon, which lit his way faithfully without ever wavering or demanding attention. A brook crossed the valley floor, its water tumbling over stones, singing with clarity, a voice softer than words, yet strong enough to ease his every remaining worry. He crouched beside the brook, cupped cool water into his hands, and drank slowly, letting each swallow carry away the dust of miles left behind. Rising again, he listened to the brook's voice fading into distance, its lullaby continuing without him, flowing toward rivers and seas he would never need to cross tonight. The path beyond curved beside tall oaks, their trunks silvered by moonlight, leaves whispering secrets of seasons past, each rustle a story told in the simplest language of rest. Among the roots, violets glimmered faintly, their petals catching stray light, small yet certain, as if the night itself had planted them to guide travelers with kindness. He slowed his steps, allowing the quiet to deepen, until even his breathing seemed part of the landscape, unhurried, steady, blending with crickets, brook, and rustling leaves. The air grew warmer as the valley narrowed, slopes sheltering him from wind, and he felt wrapped in a natural embrace, like arms of earth guarding sleep. A stone wall appeared, half broken, yet steadfast, marking the edge of a forgotten field, and he ran his hand along its cool surface, grateful for its company. Beyond the wall, fireflies hovered, brightening the shadows with small, deliberate pulses, each flicker a gentle reminder that light, no matter how fragile, is enough to guide weary hearts. The path wound onward into open fields, where grass swayed like a tide beneath the moon, every movement unhurried, teaching him patience as his steps grew slower. A breeze carried scents of clover and earth, reminding him of harvests past, when tired hands had worked long days, yet still found comfort in evening's arrival. He paused to listen, hearing the distant bark of a farm dog, not warning but greeting, a familiar sound that joined the chorus of night's calm. Far across the valley, a mill stood silent, its wheel resting after years of faithful turning, and the traveler felt gratitude for all labor now set aside. The road narrowed between hedgerows, their branches meeting above, shaping a quiet tunnel where fireflies flickered, their lights pulsing like soft breath, steadying the pace of his own. He touched one branch as he passed, leaves cool with dew, and felt the tree's long memory, as though roots themselves offered encouragement for weary travelers. The moon shone higher, its reflection glimmering faintly on puddles along the road, each mirror fragment carrying a piece of sky down to meet the earth. Crickets grew louder, their rhythm unbroken, and the sound blended with his breathing, until it seemed the entire landscape had agreed to move at the same pace. Roof dark against the starlight, doors closed, yet its shape offered comfort, a reminder that shelter is never far from those who seek it. The barn's weathered boards carried years of storms, but tonight they glowed gently, silvered by moonlight, as though even buildings slept and dreamed within the stillness of the countryside. Beyond the barn, a stream whispered, its voice carrying across the fields, inviting him closer, and he followed, boots sinking into soft soil, dampened by its endless song. He crouched at the water's edge, cupping his hands once more, the coolness refreshing him, not to wake him, but to ease him further into rest. The stars above scattered brighter, crowding the sky, their presence steady and ancient, and he felt them as companions, quiet guardians who had watched countless travelers before him. He rose again, following the stream's course as it curved between low hills, each bend revealing new stretches of meadow that opened like welcoming arms. At one bend, smooth stones formed a crossing, and he stepped carefully, water swirling around his boots, the stream accepting his weight without resistance, guiding him gently onward. On the far bank, tall grass rose above his knees, bending to the wind, its motion like a lullaby, composed without instruments, played only for hearts that needed peace. He lay briefly among the grass, staring upward, letting the stars fill his eyes, until the coolness of dew urged him softly to rise again. The path widened beyond the meadow, bordered by wildflowers, their colors muted in the moonlight, yet still carrying fragrance, a reminder that beauty persists even when sight begins to dim. He breathed deeply, filling his chest with that fragrance, letting it linger until it seemed to settle inside him, becoming part of his own steady rhythm. Ahead, a row of cottages appeared faint against the hillside, their chimneys dark, but windows glowing faintly, proof that others, too, were awake to share the watch of night. The traveler continued, comforted by their presence, though no voices reached him, only the knowledge that warmth and human kindness glowed there, keeping the darkness company with steady light. One cottage door creaked briefly, then closed again, a figure moving inside, and he knew they were performing the same quiet rituals of rest he had begun earlier. The lane curved between those cottages, and he walked softly, respecting their silence, every footfall careful, as though he carried not only himself, but the peace of others too. Beyond the cottages, the road sloped upward again, climbing toward a ridge where trees thickened, their silhouettes blending together, forming a dark wall that waited patiently to be entered. He stepped beneath their canopy, the air cooling instantly, scented with pine and damp earth, and the sound of his boots softened against the needle-strewn ground. Branches arched above him, their shapes like cathedral beams, and the stars beyond filtered through a quiet constellation of light, resting within the arms of trees themselves. He felt smaller there, but not afraid, only humbled by the trees' age, their trunks holding centuries of storms, yet offering calm to any soul who paused. Owls called again, their voices echoing between trunks, reminding him he was not alone, that the forest itself had always been alive, listening and keeping careful watch. He walked deeper, guided by the narrow path, his lantern low, though moonlight still pierced the branches, ensuring he never lost his way among the shadows. The air grew rich with the scent of moss, each breath cooler, quieter, as though the forest was lending its own calm lungs to ease his journey. Small rivulets crossed the path, trickling softly over pebbles, their voices blending with the stillness, adding a note of continuity to the symphony of nighttime sounds. The path turned, revealing a clearing where ferns unfurled beneath starlight, their shapes like open hands, cradling dew, offering a resting place to creatures hidden in the dark. He paused there, listening again, hearing the faint heartbeat of the woods themselves, a rhythm deeper than crickets, older than owls, pulsing through every root and branch. The clearing opened wider, its grass brushed silver by moonlight, and he walked across, feeling his shadow drift long and thin beside him, as though walking its own journey. At the far edge stood a stone well, moss covering its lip, water glinting faintly below, as if the forest had kept this gift secret for travelers. He leaned over, hearing the slow drip echoing inside, timeless and patient, a reminder that water waits for no one, yet always offers itself without hesitation. Taking a sip, he felt coolness settle deep within him, calming his heart further, as if the forest itself had shared its ancient reserve of peace. He sat upon the well's edge, closing his eyes, allowing silence to wrap around him, carrying him back to childhood evenings when calm arrived without asking. Fireflies appeared again, drifting from shadows, circling him in gentle arcs, their light weaving patterns that resembled forgotten constellations, gifts of guidance meant only for those who moved slowly. When he rose, the path ahead brightened faintly, and he felt certain it was not his lantern, but the forest itself, showing the way toward deeper rest. The trees grew taller as he continued, trunks wide and straight, their roots gripping the earth like anchors, holding steady against winds he could no longer feel. He brushed his hand across one trunk, the bark rough yet reassuring, and thought of time, measured not in days, but in centuries of silent strength. Above him, the stars narrowed into a ribbon, glimpsed between branches. Yet, even in that thin view, they shone brighter, concentrated, like a promise distilled to its essence. The forest floor sloped gently downward, guiding him without effort, each step landing softer, until he realized he was moving as quietly as the owls themselves. A deer stood ahead, motionless among shadows, its eyes reflecting faint light, yet it did not flee, only watched him, as if recognizing him as part of the night. He lowered his lantern, bowing his head slightly, and the deer stepped aside, its movements unhurried, returning to the thicket, leaving only trust behind in its wake. The path opened once more, revealing another meadow, smaller and enclosed, where wildflowers shone pale, their blossoms shaped like stars scattered upon the ground instead of sky. He crossed slowly, breathing the fragrance they released, each step a surrender, until it felt as though his body moved, not by will, but by the earth's own rhythm. On the far side, another stream murmured, its waters darker than before, slower too, as though night itself had thickened, slowing even the current into calm. He paused, crouched beside it, listening to the hushed flow, dipping his fingers lightly, letting the coolness remind him that every journey is softened eventually by water's embrace. He rose from the stream's edge, droplets falling from his fingers, and followed the sound downstream, each step guided by the soft music echoing across the valley floor. The stream wound between alder trees, their trunks pale in moonlight, leaves quivering faintly, and the traveler felt as though the water itself was showing him the way. He stepped carefully over roots, each one gripping the soil like hands, reminding him that even in stillness, the earth holds tightly to what it loves. A small footbridge appeared, its planks narrow, worn by generations, and he crossed slowly, pausing halfway to watch ripples spreading beneath, silver rings disappearing into quiet shadows. On the far side, the path climbed a gentle rise, bordered by ferns, and the air smelled faintly of pine, sharp yet clean, like a breath newly drawn. At the hill's crest, the view opened wide, meadows stretching into distance, villages faintly glowing, rivers winding like silver ribbons, all of them resting beneath the watchful sky. He stood silently, letting his eyes travel across that calm expanse, until he felt himself part of the land itself, no longer separate, but woven gently within. From the ridge, the path bent downward, curving along a hillside, its stones loose yet steady, and he placed each foot carefully, hearing only the quiet shift of gravel. A fox barked in the distance, sharp but brief, then silence returned, stronger than before, filling the space as though the night itself had answered. The hillside ended at another meadow, smaller and enclosed by hedgerows, where the grasses swayed slower, heavy with dew, shining faintly as the moonlight touched their bending tips. He walked across, his boots brushing against stalks, each step accompanied by the soft hiss of damp blades, a sound that carried him deeper into ease. At the meadow's far side, a gate waited, its latch hanging loosely, creaking faintly as he lifted it, before closing softly again behind him with a sigh. The lane beyond was lined with stone walls, their surfaces cool, moss spreading across them, as if age itself had chosen to live gently upon the rocks. He ran his hand along the wall, feeling its roughness, each ridge a marker of time, each stone a story, too quiet for words, but steady in presence. The lane narrowed between cottages, long abandoned, windows dark, roofs sagging, yet even in their silence they offered no fear, only rest, their emptiness filled with stillness. Owls perched on broken rafters, watching him pass, their eyes reflecting faint glimmers, yet their presence comforted him, guardians of places that no longer belonged to daylight. Past the cottages, the lane opened again into orchards, rows of trees reaching upward, branches heavy with fruit, glistening faintly as if the moon had ripened them. He reached for an apple, its skin cool and smooth, and when he bit, the sweetness spread slowly, dissolving the last remnants of hunger or worry. The orchard stretched on, each tree leaning slightly, their roots anchored in soil that smelled of patience, and he walked among them as though visiting old friends. Between rows, he noticed benches, their wood worn but steady, and he sat for a moment, resting quietly, feeling the orchard breathe around him with ancient rhythm. Lanterns hung from branches farther along, their glow not from flame, but from some gentler light, as though the orchard itself had chosen to illuminate his passage. He followed their glow, each step lighter, each breath slower, until he no longer felt the weight of distance, only the softness of being carried forward. Birds stirred briefly in the branches, wings rustling, but quickly settled again, as if reassured that this traveler came only to share the orchard's peace, not disturb it. A narrow stream ran through the orchard, its water shallow, bubbling softly over pebbles, and he knelt again, listening to its voice, gentler now than those before. He dipped his hands, letting water slip between his fingers, and the coolness felt like memory, carrying him back to every stream he had ever trusted. Rising, he crossed by stepping stones, moss covering their surfaces, but his footing was steady, the stones holding him as though they had waited for his passing. On the far bank, rows ended, and the orchard gave way to a wide clearing, its grass lower, brushed flat by the breeze, shimmering under starlight. In the clearing, he paused, sensing the land itself breathe, as though meadows and orchards, streams and hills had conspired to lull him deeper into rest. He lay back upon the grass, arms folded behind his head, and watched constellations draw lines across the sky, each one reminding him of journeys past. His eyes closed, not in sleep but in reverence, listening to the night as though it were a hymn, and each sound a verse written for him. The clearing held him, soft and unbroken, until a cool breeze urged him onward, and he rose again, continuing the path where it curved gently into the woods. Branches overhead whispered faintly, their voices threading together, not secrets but songs, the kind that reassure without meaning, reminding him that peace requires no explanation. He walked slowly, his lantern swinging low, though he barely needed it, for the forest itself glowed faintly, as though moonlight had been folded into the leaves. At one bend, a fallen log stretched across the path, moss thick along its back, and he stepped over gently, respecting the years it had endured. Beyond the log, a brook cut through the woods, flowing steadily, its waters clearer than glass, each pebble beneath visible, each ripple carrying a fragment of starlight. He crouched once more, cupping water, and the taste refreshed him again. though this time it seemed to fill not his body but his spirit with ease. The brook's voice followed him as he continued, fading slowly, leaving behind silence stitched with threads of memory, as if sound itself had agreed to sleep. Deeper in the woods, mushrooms glowed faintly at the base of trees, small lanterns of earth guiding his steps without flame, each one a quiet promise of safety. He bent to observe their soft glow, marveling at how even the smallest things carried light. Their presence a reminder that night never fully belongs to darkness. The trees grew denser, branches weaving close, but the path remained steady, as if cleared long ago by hands who understood the need for travelers to move gently. He brushed against ferns that reached across the path, their fronds damp with dew, and each touch left his hands cooled, carrying traces of the forest's patience. The scent of pine deepened, sharp yet steady, filling his lungs with freshness, until his steps felt lighter, as though he had borrowed the tree's strength for a while. Owls called again, closer this time, their voices overlapping in a slow duet carrying through the woods, their rhythms slower than words, but older than silence. He paused to listen, head tilted upward, eyes searching branches, though he knew the owl's presence was meant to be felt, not seen, reassurance hidden in shadows. The forest floor sloped upward, his boots pressing against firm soil, and he climbed steadily, each step measured, until he reached another rise where moonlight poured freely again. At the crest, he stopped to breathe, looking back at the woods he had crossed, grateful for their watchful silence, grateful that every path had carried him gently. Ahead, the land sloped toward another meadow, wide and open, and he saw its grasses swaying slowly, silvered tips moving like waves breaking upon a distant shore. He descended, each step easier than the last, until he felt himself gliding more than walking, carried not by will, but by the earth's calm rhythm. The meadow welcomed him with fragrance, wildflowers bending toward him, and he passed through them as if through a congregation of friends, each blossom nodding kindly without speaking. At the center, a stone marked the ground, weathered smooth, and he touched it gently, sensing it had waited centuries just to share its steady stillness with him. He lingered by the stone, its surface cool beneath his palm, before stepping onward, the meadow stretching behind him like a blanket folded carefully after long use. The path led toward a copse of birch trees, their trunks pale as bone, bark peeling softly, shimmering silver where moonlight kissed them through thin clouds drifting slowly. He walked between them, hearing the whisper of their leaves, lighter than oaks, brighter than pines, a language that spoke only of clarity and the ease of breathing. Beyond the birches, a hollow opened, filled with wild thyme and mint, their fragrance sharp but soothing, each breath carrying a hint of herbs once steeped at hearths. He knelt, brushing his hands across the plants, dew clinging to his fingers, and the scent rose stronger, grounding him more firmly within the present stillness. From the hollow, the land sloped gently downward toward another brook, its waters darker, shaded by tall reeds, and he followed its murmur until the path rejoined stone. A bridge of 3 arches spanned the brook, worn by carts and horses long gone, yet steady still, its stones gleaming with moisture and reflecting a borrowed sky. He crossed carefully, pausing midway, resting his hand upon the cold rail, and listened as water passed beneath, a sound steady as time, indifferent yet comforting. On the far side, a stand of willows drooped low, their branches trailing into the current, swaying slowly, brushing ripples, like guardians bending low to soothe restless waters. The traveler passed beneath, branches touching his shoulders, and felt as though the willows themselves were blessing him, granting safe passage deeper into the heart of night. The air thickened with dampness, yet carried no chill, only the embrace of riverbanks and shaded earth, a reminder that comfort can arrive in many quiet forms. Fireflies shimmered again between trunks, darting briefly, disappearing, then reappearing farther ahead, as though leading him gently along a path he might not have chosen without their subtle glow. The path narrowed once more, pressed by hedges that rose high, weaving into an archway, and he entered willingly, letting the closeness wrap him like a blanket. His lantern swung low, but the hedges themselves held enough light, leaves reflecting faint silver, turning the tunnel into a passage carved carefully for those seeking rest. At the end, the hedges opened suddenly, releasing him into another meadow, this one vast and rolling, waves of grass folding and unfolding beneath the restless sky. He breathed deeply, filling his chest, and felt the meadow accept him, as though he had joined its quiet rhythm. Each inhale and exhale matched to its sway. Distant hills lined the horizon, their silhouettes soft, and he knew the road would eventually reach them. But for now they waited, content to watch from afar. He lay briefly upon the grass, eyes following constellations, tracing old shapes remembered from childhood nights, each one a friend returned after years of patient waiting. The stars flickered as though winking knowingly, and he closed his eyes, allowing their messages to sink into his mind, not as stories, but as calm itself. Rising once more, he continued across the meadow, his steps light, and he felt the earth receive them not as burden, but as acknowledgement of his belonging here. A farmhouse appeared far off, roof dark, windows glowing faintly, proof that even in solitude he was not alone, that others, too, kept their watch with warmth. He smiled, though no words passed, only gratitude for their silent presence, their hearths burning for themselves, yet still spilling comfort outward into the wide, waiting night. The path curved around the farmhouse, skirting its fence, where sheep stirred faintly but did not rise, only shifting closer together, as though embodying rest itself. Beyond the fence, the road grew softer, earth worn smooth, grass pressing over it, as though fewer travelers had passed this way, leaving more space for quiet. He welcomed that emptiness, finding in it not loneliness, but relief. For silence can carry companionship when shaped by trust, patience, and the certainty of being safe. Ahead, a grove of maples lined the road, their leaves whispering in unison, as though rehearsing an old song known only to those who travel without haste. He listened, slowing his steps until they matched, his boots tapping faintly, joining the rhythm of leaves, merging into a chorus that blurred the boundary between man and earth. The grove thinned, opening onto another rise, where the land dipped toward a wide marsh, its reeds black against the sky, their tips bending under the weight of dew. Frogs croaked softly, their calls steady, not harsh, a music older than bells, blending with the marsh's stillness, anchoring the night in sound, both grounded and unhurried. He stopped at the marsh's edge, watching mist curl low across its surface, rolling slowly, as though the land itself exhaled with satisfaction after a long day. A wooden walkway stretched across the marsh, boards weathered gray, slick with moisture, yet firm beneath his feet, guiding him through reeds that bowed in silence. Each step echoed faintly, wood answering wood, and the traveler imagined countless feet had walked here, each carried forward by trust in the marsh's quiet endurance. At the walkway's midpoint, he paused, listening to frogs, crickets, and wind blending together, a song stitched so perfectly it seemed no other music could ever exist. The marsh glowed faintly where fireflies hovered, their reflections flickering on the water's surface, doubling their presence, as if the night had chosen to offer twice its comfort. He moved onward, the walkway bending toward higher ground, each step drawing him away from the marsh, though its song lingered behind, etched into his heart. Climbing the slope, he reached dry soil again, boots brushing against pebbles, and he looked back once, grateful for the marsh's stillness, grateful for the way it had held him. Ahead, the slope leveled into a grove of cedars, tall and fragrant, their needles dark, and the air carried a richness that made his chest feel lighter. He placed a hand upon one trunk, feeling its steady strength, its resin scent rising faintly, and knew he had touched something that had endured countless seasons. Beneath the cedars, the path softened with fallen needles, each step cushioned, silenced, as though the grove itself desired that no sound should break its calm. He walked carefully, lantern lowered, respecting the stillness, until he felt the cedars themselves accept him, their shadows opening a passage for his slow and steady progress. In the grove's heart, a stone bench appeared, carved long ago, edges worn, moss covering parts, yet steady, inviting him to sit and share its timeless patience. He rested, laying his lantern beside him, and closed his eyes briefly, listening to the cedars quiet him, their voices unchanging, yet endlessly comforting in their repetition. When he rose again, the path widened, trees parting, and the moon reappeared, spreading silver light across the road, painting it as though it were made of glass. He followed its glow, walking more easily, until his steps felt less his own and more the night's, carrying him forward with no effort, only trust. A low wall of stone marked the grove's boundary, its top lined with lichens glowing faintly, as though even the smallest life contributed to the night's light. He trailed his hand along the wall, feeling its texture, each ridge grounding him, each crack reminding him that age itself was nothing more than time resting. The wall ended at a gate, iron hinges rusted but strong, and he pushed it open, the sound long and low, blending naturally with the night. Beyond the gate stretched another meadow, wide and still, its grasses unbroken, lying flat where deer had rested earlier, their absence leaving only the memory of calm. He stepped into it, boots brushing stalks, feeling himself join the meadow's silence, his breathing blending with its rhythm, his body becoming part of its endless expanse. At its center, he paused, tilting his face to the stars, letting their silver rain down upon him, until he felt completely dissolved into their eternal watch. He lingered in the meadow's center, heart slowed, breath steady, until the silence pressed so deeply upon him that it felt like a companion walking quietly by his side. Fireflies drifted overhead, their lights blinking in patterns that seemed intentional, guiding him gently toward the far edge of the meadow, where shadows of trees waited patiently. He moved slowly across the grass, every step brushing dew, and the cool dampness against his boots reminded him that the earth itself carried freshness even in deepest night. At the meadow's boundary, tall poplars rose like sentinels, their leaves trembling in the breeze, each movement a whisper of reassurance that no harm could pass this way. He walked beneath them, listening to the rustling overhead, and thought of voices long gone, perhaps ancestors, perhaps strangers, all reminding him that rest belonged to every generation. Beyond the poplars, the road narrowed once more, gravel crunching softly underfoot, leading him into a narrow glen where shadows lay deeper but never felt unkind. The glen opened suddenly onto another stream, wider this time, its surface calm, and he saw the stars reflected so clearly they seemed to have fallen into water. He crouched beside it, fingertips trailing the surface, ripples spreading outward, distorting the constellations. Yet, even broken, their light remained, unchanged in strength, unchanged in their quiet watch. A simple wooden raft was tied along the bank, rope thick with age, boards worn smooth, waiting silently as though it had been left for him alone. He untied it gently, stepped aboard, and the raft shifted slightly but held firm, carrying him into the current, where the stream moved steady, unhurried, like his own breath. The water carried him forward, moonlight shimmering across its ripples, and he stood still, lantern at his side, letting the current decide his pace, offering complete surrender. Willows leaned over the banks, their branches trailing, brushing the water with long fingers, and the sound was like lullabies hummed low, sung only for passing travelers. Frogs croaked faintly, answering one another, while insects traced silver arcs above the water, their brief lives woven into the vast rhythm of night's careful balance. The raft drifted until the current slowed, and he guided it gently toward shore, rope in hand, stepping onto soft mud that welcomed his boots without complaint. Ahead, another path stretched upward from the bank, bordered by reeds, and he followed, leaving behind the stream's voice, though it lingered within him like a memory of calm. The slope rose gently, carrying him toward another ridge, and as he climbed, the sky widened, stars opening their arms above, endless and steady as his breathing. At the ridge's crest, he paused, gazing back at the water below. Its silver surface, now hidden by distance, yet he knew its voice would follow him forever. Ahead, rolling hills opened in gentle sequence, their curves soft against the sky, and the path meandered among them, offering no haste, only the comfort of continuity. He walked steadily, lantern dimmed, for the moon provided all he needed, its light guiding him as faithfully as any map, steady and constant above the hills. At one hilltop, he rested briefly, sitting upon a stone warmed by the day's sun, its heat lingering faintly, seeping into him as if the earth lent strength. The wind brushed his face, neither cold nor warm, only present, carrying with it scents of grass, soil, and the faintest trace of blossoms unseen in the dark. He closed his eyes, inhaled deeply, and allowed that mixture to anchor him, to remind him that life continues quietly, even when no one is watching. Rising again, he followed the ridge downward, the path gentle, and each step felt easier, as though the land itself was carrying him into its deeper embrace. A cluster of stones appeared, arranged in a circle, perhaps once a fire pit, perhaps older, but now they served as silent markers of gatherings long past. He touched one stone, its surface cool, moss growing thick, and imagined the voices that once sat here, telling stories, laughter mingling with smoke, all now returned to silence. Passing onward, the path bent toward another grove, this one of beeches, their trunks pale, smooth as skin, branches arching high above, creating a hall of silver pillars. He walked slowly beneath them, feeling as though he had entered a temple, one without roof or walls, only the night sky resting gently between their crowns. His boots made almost no sound here, the ground soft with fallen leaves, and he realized the grove had invited him to walk as quietly as possible. A deer moved in the distance, slipping between trunks, but did not flee, its presence calm, acknowledging him as fellow traveler rather than intruder. The path curved out of the beech grove, and the night opened wide again, stars leaning closer, hills stretching ahead like waves frozen in quiet motion. He descended another slope, the land growing softer, until he found himself entering a valley where mist had gathered, lying low and glowing faintly in moonlight. The mist curled around his legs, cool and damp, yet it felt more like a blanket than a veil, wrapping him kindly rather than obscuring his way. He walked carefully, each step visible as a ripple through the mist, and the sight reminded him that all movement leaves traces, however small, in the world. At the valley's center, a pond glimmered faintly, its surface unbroken. A mirror so clear it seemed like another sky, resting silently upon the earth's surface. He bent to look into it, saw stars reflected perfectly, and for a moment could not tell whether he gazed downward or upward. So seamlessly the two worlds merged. A fish broke the surface, ripples spreading outward, scattering constellations, and yet, even disturbed, their light remained, returning calmly, as though nothing could truly shatter their steady glow. He lingered at the pond's edge, crouching low, fingers brushing damp grass, until the stillness entered him fully, filling him with the same patience the water carried. Rising, he turned back to the path, the mist parting gently, and he walked onward, trusting the road, though its destination was hidden by distance. The valley ended where low cliffs rose, their faces pale, marked by cracks and ledges, and a stairway of stone wound upward, carved long ago by steady hands. He climbed slowly, each step deliberate, the stone cool beneath his boots, yet firm, as though the cliffs themselves had agreed to bear his weight. At the top, he paused, breath steady, and gazed across the valley he had crossed. Mist glowing faintly, pond reflecting stars, all holding still in his memory. Turning forward, he saw another expanse of plains, wider and flatter, their grasses stretching endlessly, the horizon distant, glowing faintly as the moon reached its highest point. He walked onward, steps measured, lanterns swaying lightly, and the plains opened before him, their silence vast yet not empty, filled instead with the breathing of hidden creatures. Owls called faintly from the edges, their voices carried across miles, each sound a reminder that the night was shared, never wholly his, but never lonely either. He adjusted his pack, the straps creaking softly, and continued, his body moving automatically now, guided less by thought than by rhythm, a harmony with the land itself. The grass brushed his knees, bending aside with each step, rising again behind him, erasing his passage, leaving no trace but the memory carried by the sky above. Ahead, he saw a single tree standing solitary in the plains, its branches wide, casting shadows, long and thin, reaching outward as if to greet him. He approached slowly, grateful for its presence, and leaned against its trunk, the bark rough but solid, a comfort offered freely, as though trees, too, could share companionship. Beneath its branches, he rested briefly, lanterns set aside, and gazed upward through its crown, where stars filtered in scattered fragments, reminding him of windows in ancient roofs. Rising again, he continued forward, the plains stretching still, and he felt lighter. Less a traveler with burdens, more a figure dissolved into the rhythm of night itself. The plains spread wide in every direction, yet, instead of loneliness, they carried a fullness, as if silence itself had substance, holding him carefully within its reach. A soft wind pressed across the grasses, bending them like waves upon a shallow sea, and he walked through their rhythm, each step blending into their motion. The stars above glimmered brighter now, their scattered lights sharpening as the night deepened, guiding him as surely as any map could, though requiring nothing in return. Ahead, the land dipped gently into a hollow, where low shrubs grew thick, their silhouettes black against the silvered sky, forming shadows that looked like resting animals. He descended slowly, feeling the earth shift beneath him, softer here, and his boots pressed into soil that held moisture, scent of rain still lingering. At the hollow's center, a spring bubbled quietly, water rising from hidden stone, trickling into a shallow pool, its voice soft yet steady, speaking in tones older than words. He knelt, cupped the spring water, tasted its clarity, and felt refreshed, not in body alone, but in spirit, as though the earth had spoken directly to him. Beside the spring, flat stones formed a ring, perhaps once a gathering place, and he sat among them, resting briefly, hearing echoes of forgotten conversations in the night. The air grew cooler, dew settling more heavily, and he pulled his cloak closer, not against discomfort, but to welcome the night's honest touch upon his shoulders. When he rose again, the path wound upward, leaving the hollow behind, carrying him back into the openness of the plains, where stars leaned even closer. He walked with steady rhythm, each step unhurried, as though the land itself set the pace, guiding him toward horizons, unseen but always meant to be reached. Far ahead, he saw the faint outline of trees, a grove marking the plain's end, their shapes dark, promising shelter, and perhaps a resting place once more. The walk was long, but not burdensome, for the plains gave him room to breathe, each inhalation filling him with patience, each exhalation leaving behind only ease. As he drew nearer, the trees resolved into tall elms, their crowns spreading wide, their roots anchored deep, as if they had waited centuries for his arrival. He entered their shade, the air changing instantly, cooler, softer, scented with leaves, and the sounds of plains faded into a hush shaped only by the grove. Beneath the elms, the path narrowed into soil darkened by years of fallen leaves, and his boots sank quietly, each step absorbed into the ground's forgiving surface. He touched one trunk, its bark ridged, lines flowing upward, a story written slowly across centuries, a reminder that strength comes from enduring quietly, not resisting storms. The grove deepened, branches above interlacing, forming a ceiling where moonlight slipped through in fragments, like silver coins scattered across dark cloth, small yet countless in their beauty. He paused, lifting his face to those fragments, letting them rest upon him, each beam like a blessing, carrying the stillness of stars into his own heart. A night bird stirred, wings fluttering briefly, then silence returned, as if the forest itself had spoken and now fell quiet again, satisfied that its message was received. The grove ended at a stream, broader than before, its waters calm, reflecting branches, stars, and his own faint image, which shimmered with every ripple stirred by breeze. A stone crossing lay ahead, flat slabs placed long ago, and he stepped carefully, each stone steady, their order so natural it felt the earth had arranged them. Midway, he stopped, looking down at his reflection, watching it bend and reform with ripples. A reminder that identity is never fixed, but always shaped by quiet currents. Reaching the far side, he followed the path upward once more, where the grove opened to rolling pasture, fields open to sky, dotted with low stone walls. Sheep grazed faintly in the distance, their shapes pale in moonlight, quiet and still, their presence steady, embodying peace more deeply than words could ever convey. He leaned against one stone wall, its surface cool and rough, and allowed himself to rest, feeling the wall carry part of his weight without question. Beyond, the pasture rolled onward, the grass silvered, swaying with the faintest breeze, and he continued slowly, savoring each step as though each moment was meant to last. A farmhouse appeared far away, lantern burning faintly in its window. Not for him, yet even distant, its glow offered comfort, a reminder of lives unfolding quietly. He smiled at its presence, though he did not approach, choosing instead to carry the warmth it offered like a gift given freely to strangers. The path curved, leading him past the farmhouse's distant fields, and he heard faint sounds of animals resting, the gentle shuffle of hooves, the slow breathing of sleep. He walked on, the land rising again, hills climbing into shapes darker against the sky, each ascent steady, carrying him further from farms and closer to wilderness. At the crest, he turned briefly, looking back across pastures, cottages, and plains, and saw the path behind glowing faintly, a ribbon of memory stretching far away. Ahead, woods waited again, denser this time, pines and firs rising tall, their needles black silhouettes, their scent stronger, sharper, filling the air with evergreen coolness. He entered slowly, lantern lowered, breathing in the forest's fragrance, letting it settle into him like medicine, calming and clarifying with each quiet step upon the needle-strewn path. The trees whispered faintly, their voices higher than elms or oaks, sharper in pitch, as though carrying a different dialect of the night's universal language. He followed their cadence, letting the sound guide his rhythm, until he felt himself walking not alone, but accompanied by the steady voices of the trees. The path twisted, winding between roots and rocks, yet never lost its direction, always guiding him forward, as though shaped by hands unseen but trustworthy. A small clearing appeared, ringed with firs, and at its center, a fire pit lay cold, ashes gray, stones blackened, a place where warmth once held the darkness away. He paused there, kneeling beside the ashes, imagining flames that had long ago flickered, travelers sharing bread, voices rising, before silence returned and claimed the place again. Rising, he continued onward, the forest thickening, branches interlacing more tightly until moonlight vanished, replaced entirely by the lantern's soft glow lighting his path with patient steadiness. He walked deeper, footsteps muffled, and the air grew still, as if the forest itself was holding its breath, waiting for something unspoken to pass between them. A breeze stirred suddenly, shifting branches, and he felt relief, knowing the forest had exhaled, its stillness never meant as warning, but as reminder to listen closely. The ground dipped into another hollow, damp and cool, and he descended slowly, the air rich with the scent of moss, mushrooms, and hidden streams beneath stone. He paused at the hollow's floor, lantern raised, seeing the glimmer of water seeping between rocks. A quiet underground spring, patient and unhurried, feeding the forest in silence. He crouched, touched the cool stone, felt the dampness cling to his fingers, and knew he had brushed against something older than roads, older than cottages, eternal. Standing again, he followed the hollow upward, climbing carefully, and soon the path rose once more, guiding him toward higher ground where stars returned between the branches. When he emerged, the forest thinned, trees spaced farther apart, and beyond them, hills stretched outward, their curves faint, rolling gently, each one layered against the next in distance. He breathed more easily here, the sky widening again, its openness washing away the closeness of woods, leaving only gratitude for their shelter and joy at release. Ahead, the hills glimmered faintly, moonlight touching their ridges, and he knew his journey would continue across them, each rise and fall another step in the night's endless rhythm. With steady breath, he pressed forward, no urgency in his stride, only calm acceptance, as though every step itself was destination, every moment already enough within the night. The hills stretched before him like rolling waves, their crests silvered by moonlight, and he walked steadily, lantern dimmed, for the sky itself was enough to guide him. Each ascent lifted him higher into open air, the wind brushing his face, carrying scents of grass and stone, grounding him deeper within the rhythm of night. At one hilltop, he paused, gazing back at the valley he had crossed, the mist still glowing faintly, pond and stream resting quietly under the blanket of stars. He turned forward, feeling no urgency, only trust, as though the hills themselves promised that every step taken was already part of a greater destination. Descending, he entered a shallow dale, where grasses grew taller, brushing against his knees, their fragrance rising with each step, sweet and steady, like bread cooling on a hearth. A hare darted across his path, swift and silent, disappearing into the shadows, and its presence reminded him that the night was alive with unseen companions. He smiled faintly, walking on, the dale opening into another slope where the land climbed gradually, leading him upward again toward ridges outlined faintly against the sky. At the ridge, he saw distant forests stretching like a dark sea, their crowns rippling under the breeze, endless in patience, endless in their watchful presence. He stood there a while, letting his eyes rest on their vastness, until calm entered him as deeply as the forest's roots reached into the soil. The path curved downward, carrying him gently toward that sea of trees, and his lantern swung lightly, casting golden circles that faded as quickly as they formed. Entering the forest, he breathed in resin and damp leaves, the air thicker here, yet steady, wrapping around him like a cloak woven from patience. Branches arched high, closing overhead, and moonlight pierced through in small fragments, scattered across the ground like silver coins waiting to be gathered by unhurried hands. He touched the nearest trunk, its bark coarse, strength steady, and he thought of storms endured centuries past, the quiet dignity carried by those who stand without complaint. His boots pressed into earth, softened by needles, the sound muffled, as though the forest itself had chosen to quiet him, to fold him into its stillness. The deeper he walked, the more he sensed presence, not threatening, but protective, as though unseen guardians moved among the trees, watching gently, ensuring his safe passage. An owl hooted above, wings spread in shadow, and he tilted his head upward, listening, knowing such calls were not warnings, but reminders that he was not alone. The path bent toward a stream hidden in the woods, water murmuring softly, weaving its way through moss-covered stones, its voice a steady companion in the hush. He knelt again, filling his palms, sipping slowly, and the water cooled him deeply, carrying away the last remnants of weariness, leaving only patience in its place. Rising, he followed the stream's curve, lantern low, and the water guided him naturally, leading him through the heart of the forest with its unwavering song. Fireflies glimmered above reeds along the banks, their lights drifting upward like sparks from an unseen fire, reminding him that illumination comes in many gentle forms. The forest thickened briefly, trunks crowding close, yet the path remained clear. a corridor left open by time and care, as though the trees themselves had agreed upon it. He moved quietly, matching his breath to the rhythm of the stream, until it felt as though his body and the water flowed in unison together. At last, the stream bent away, fading into shadows, and he continued on, its voice lingering within him, steady as memory, steady as heartbeats at rest. The ground sloped upward once more, carrying him toward an opening where the forest ended, and stars spilled freely again, painting the hillside in silver clarity. He climbed steadily, lungs filling with cooler air, until he reached the clearing's edge, where grass bent beneath the night breeze, whispering softly around his ankles. At the crest, he paused, gazing outward, seeing another valley below, wide and dark, with glimmers of distant cottages glowing faintly like embers, hidden in shadow. He smiled, knowing each glow marked lives at rest, families wrapped in quilts, hearth fires low, yet even unseen. Their presence stitched warmth into the fabric of night. He descended slowly, the valley floor rising to meet him, and each step carried him nearer to the hidden cottages, though he knew he would pass in silence. Reaching the valley's heart, he paused near a stone wall, rough and low, its surface damp with dew, and leaned briefly, grateful for its quiet support. A cart track crossed his path, its ruts faint but visible, reminders of journeys taken long ago, of neighbors and travelers who had passed safely this way. He followed it for a time, boots fitting into grooves, and he felt himself aligned with countless footsteps that had already trusted this same direction. The track curved near a cottage, small and still, chimney cold, but garden fragrant with herbs, mint and rosemary releasing scent even in the hush of midnight. He lingered at its gate, not to enter, only to admire the stillness before stepping onward, carrying the fragrance like a gift freely offered. Beyond the cottage, the track narrowed into path once more, bordered by hedges heavy with dew, their tips brushing his sleeves, leaving dark marks upon his cloak. The scent of earth rose stronger here, damp and grounding, and each breath reminded him that rest was not only for the body, but for the land itself. A nightingale sang faintly nearby, its melody delicate, weaving through hedges like a ribbon, threading silence with music, carrying comfort in tones too small for words. He stopped, listening fully, allowing the song to settle within him, until it seemed less a bird's voice than a hymn written by the night itself. When the song ended, silence deepened again, richer now, and he moved onward, grateful for the reminder that beauty often arrives unannounced, leaving only memory behind. The valley widened gradually, fields opening once more, their grasses bending low, and he walked between them, lanterns swaying faintly, the road unbroken, guiding him onward with patience. Above, the stars shifted, constellations tilting toward the horizon, and he realized the night had advanced, though time itself felt irrelevant within such gentle continuity. Ahead, the land began to climb again, ridges layering in shadow, and he felt strength return, as though each hill offered energy rather than demanded effort. He pressed upward steadily, breathing evenly until he reached the crest, where wind brushed his face with freshness, carrying scents of pine and stone mingled together. Looking back, the valley glowed faintly, cottages resting like embers, and he held the sight a moment, storing it as comfort for whatever roads lay still ahead. He turned forward, the horizon wide, and the hills stretched endlessly, silvered by the moon, their shapes rising and falling like the steady rhythm of breathing. He walked on, lantern lowered, steps slow, heart calm, each movement less an act of travel than an embrace of the night's ongoing patience. A grove of pines appeared at the base of the next hill, their silhouettes black, their scent strong, and he moved toward them, eager for their shelter. Entering the grove, the ground softened, needles cushioning each step, and the stillness grew deeper, the kind that carries reassurance rather than fear, a silence that welcomes. He paused, resting his hand on a trunk, breathing in the sharp fragrance, and felt strength seep into him as if the tree had shared its endurance. Fireflies flickered faintly among the needles, their lights small but steady, reminders that even the darkest places are never without some measure of guiding glow. He smiled, lantern low, breath slow, and pressed deeper into the grove, certain that wherever the night carried him, it carried him always toward rest and safety. The grove opened gradually, revealing a meadow bathed in silver moonlight, dew sparkling faintly like tiny stars scattered upon the ground, welcoming him with its soft, unhurried embrace. He stepped carefully, feeling the cool grass brush his ankles, each blade bending gently beneath his touch, a rhythm in harmony with his slow, measured breathing. A distant stream hummed faintly, carrying whispers of water over smooth stones, echoing softly through the night, as if the land itself sang a quiet lullaby just for him. He paused briefly, listening to the gentle murmurs, letting them settle deep into his chest, releasing the tension of travel, filling him with patient calm and quiet awareness. Ahead, the meadow sloped upward toward low hills, their silhouettes merging with the horizon, and he walked steadily, guided by moonlight and the natural rhythm of the earth beneath him. Fireflies rose among the grass, tiny sparks dancing lazily in the night air, weaving patterns across the meadow that seemed deliberate, gentle, and comforting in their quiet luminescence. He bent slightly to observe them, feeling his heart lighten, as though the soft lights carried away fatigue and replaced it with an awareness of peace and safety. The path curved toward a cluster of oaks, their branches arching high, forming a cathedral of shadows and silver, sheltering him within their timeless strength and patient watchfulness. He stepped beneath them, letting the moonlight filter through leaves, creating shifting patterns on the ground, a gentle mosaic guiding him forward along the soft earth trail. Roots rose from the soil like ancient hands, yet none obstructed him. Instead, they invited care, teaching him to move slowly, deliberately, blending with the forest rather than pushing against it. The air grew cooler as he advanced, carrying the scent of earth and pine, soothing and invigorating, a reminder that night itself is a balm for the wandering soul. He paused at a clearing where the grass bent low, watching shadows and light mingle, each movement in the breeze forming a quiet, gentle dance for his eyes alone. A deer emerged from the edge of the clearing, cautious yet unafraid, watching him with calm eyes, and he lowered his lantern slightly, acknowledging the shared stillness between them. The deer moved onward, disappearing into the shadows, leaving him with a profound sense of presence, knowing that all creatures of the night moved in their own measured rhythm. He followed the path as it curved around a low hill, the meadow stretching wide on either side, and felt the land enfold him, guiding without words or demand. A brook appeared, glimmering faintly beneath moonlight, its waters moving slower than any river he had seen, yet steady, patient, unhurried, offering a song of reassurance in its gentle flow. He knelt beside it, cupping water in his hands, letting the cool liquid flow over his fingers, and taste it slowly, feeling renewed, body and spirit alike. Rising, he followed the brook's course briefly until it branched into a small pool, water still and mirror-like, reflecting stars and branches alike, a silent sky upon the earth. He lingered, watching fish disturb the surface occasionally, ripples scattering light, until he understood the night's rhythm, movement and stillness balanced perfectly, teaching him patience in the process. Beyond the pool, the path wound upward through tall grasses, each step soft, measured, as though the earth itself invited him to move with care. Mindful of his surroundings, the hills beyond rose gradually, each slope gentle, carrying him higher, air fresh and fragrant, filled with scents of moss, pine, and distant blossoms he could almost name. He paused midway, feeling the night wind brush his face, cooling and steady, and watched the distant horizon, where forests and meadows blended seamlessly beneath the stars' steady gaze. Continuing, he reached the crest of the hill, where a single tree stood alone, its branches stretched wide, silhouetted against the sky, inviting him to rest beneath its calm presence. He approached and leaned lightly against its trunk, feeling rough bark beneath his palm, steady and patient, offering him silent reassurance for the miles already traveled. Fireflies hovered again, their tiny lights floating like whispered blessings, circling the tree, and he felt their warmth, not as heat, but as quiet companionship for his journey. From this vantage, he saw another ridge beyond, rolling gently, the path continuing through meadows and small woods, leading toward horizons that promised both solitude and safety. He walked onward, letting his gaze wander across fields and distant forests, feeling the openness expand inside him, as though he had become part of the landscape itself. A soft rustle in the grass caught his attention, small creatures moving unseen, each step careful, echoing the rhythm he had learned to follow, unhurried, deliberate, peaceful. The path descended gradually toward a low valley, its grasses glowing faintly in moonlight, and he felt each step more like floating than walking, carried by the night itself. At the valley's edge, a grove of birches appeared, their white trunks gleaming faintly, and he entered, their shadows stretching long, yet offering shelter and a gentle sense of order. He walked among the birches, each step soft on moss and leaves, listening to the wind whisper through their branches, a song composed without instruments, yet perfectly orchestrated. The grove opened onto another meadow, smaller and wilder, where flowers glimmered faintly, bending with the breeze, and he walked among them carefully, savoring the night's quiet artistry. Moonlight filtered through clouds intermittently, painting the meadow with shifting silver, shadows dancing lightly upon his path, reminding him that change itself can be gentle and beautiful. He paused to breathe deeply, inhaling the scent of grass and blossoms, feeling the night settle within him, filling every inch of awareness with calm and presence. Beyond the meadow, a stream trickled, water clear and slow, guiding him toward a bridge, its wooden planks worn yet steady, waiting as if expecting him alone tonight. He crossed slowly, feeling each plank beneath his boots, listening to the soft gurgle below, and he realized that every sound was a companion in the night's quiet symphony. On the far side, a hill rose gently, the path winding upward, each step measured, and he allowed the earth to carry him, trusting in its patient guidance. At the crest, he looked back at the forested hills he had crossed, mist rolling faintly, streams glimmering, and he felt gratitude for the night's steady watchfulness. The path descended toward open fields once more, grasses brushing his legs, fireflies dancing faintly around him, carrying him gently as though by invisible hands, toward a distant goal. Ahead, a single oak tree stood, its branches wide and welcoming, and he rested briefly beneath it, feeling the night settle around him, wrapping him in quiet reassurance. The air shifted slightly, cool and fragrant, carrying scents of pine, grass, and damp earth. A blend that reminded him how deeply the night itself was alive. He rose, following the path across rolling hills, each slope soft, each crest gentle, as though the land had been shaped to ease travelers into calm rather than challenge them. Moonlight illuminated distant meadows, silvering grasses and stones, guiding him forward without need for lantern, the night itself offering a gentle hand to those willing to follow. A rabbit darted across his path, pausing only briefly, then vanishing into shadows, reminding him that life persisted quietly in places unseen, yet perfectly integrated with the world's rhythm. He continued, boots pressing into soft earth, feeling each step harmonize with the night's pace, slow and deliberate, as though time itself had folded around his careful journey. At the next ridge, he paused, letting his eyes rest on distant valleys, hills, and forests, noting the way shadows and light danced, each feature softened by distance and calm. The path descended gently, carrying him toward a grove of pines, their scent rich and grounding, each trunk steady, as if the forest itself offered support and companionship. He stepped among the trees, lantern low, letting the dim glow mingle with moonlight, guiding his way without demand, creating a space of safety between each shadow. Beneath the pines, the earth was soft with needles, cushioning each step, and he moved slowly, feeling the forest absorb the weight of his journey and hold it kindly. Emerging from the grove, the land opened into rolling fields once more, the horizon stretching endlessly, and he walked forward with the assurance that the night would carry him safely. The fields stretched on endlessly, dew sparkling faintly under the silver moon, and he walked slowly, each step soft, feeling the land hold him gently in its quiet embrace. A soft breeze brushed against his face, carrying scents of grass and distant flowers, mingling with the freshness of night, grounding him more fully with every careful step. In the distance, the hills curved gently, their shapes smooth, blending with the sky, and he felt no hurry, only the rhythm of the night moving him forward. He paused briefly atop a rise, gazing at the valley below, dotted with shadows and faint lights, all at rest, the world itself sighing in gentle contentment. Descending carefully, he stepped into a shallow hollow, grasses brushing his legs, the earth soft beneath his feet, as though the night had laid it gently in waiting. Fireflies appeared again, drifting lazily through the darkness, their tiny lights weaving patterns across the path, creating a soft illumination that seemed meant only to guide him. He followed them silently, letting the rhythm of their movement dictate his pace, each flicker a subtle reminder that guidance often comes in the smallest ways. A distant stream murmured faintly, its voice blending with the whispers of wind through grasses and leaves, a song both ancient and comforting in its quiet consistency. He knelt beside it briefly, cupping cool water in his hands, letting it refresh him, feeling a renewal that went beyond the body, soothing the spirit with patience. Rising again, he followed the stream for a short distance, letting its steady voice lead him until it curved away beneath the shadow of distant trees. Ahead, a gentle rise awaited, the path winding upward between low hills, their slopes covered in soft grass, and he moved deliberately, each step measured and unhurried. From the crest, he could see another expanse of meadows, shimmering faintly under the moon, stretching wide and welcoming, offering a sense of openness that soothed every worry. He descended into the meadows, boots brushing softly against blades, fireflies dancing around him like tiny stars that had fallen to guide him along the night's path. A small grove of oaks rose at the meadow's edge, their branches wide and inviting, shadows falling gently, offering a place to pause and rest within their embrace. He stepped beneath the oaks, feeling the coolness of their shade, each breath carrying scents of earth, leaves, and moss, grounding him in the present moment of peace. Roots rose along the path, thick and twisted, yet they did not hinder him, only teaching careful movement, a gentle reminder that even obstacles can hold grace and patience. The forest floor softened underfoot, littered with leaves and needles, absorbing sound, and he moved quietly, blending with the stillness, becoming part of the night's rhythm rather than separate. Owls called in the distance, voices overlapping, echoing through the grove, a reminder that life persists quietly, even when unseen, and that he was never truly alone in this world. He paused to listen, inhaling the cool, fragrant air, allowing the grove's music to enter fully, soothing thoughts and quieting any lingering tension from the journey behind him. The path curved upward again, the trees thinning slightly, revealing a view of distant hills, moonlight spilling across them, each slope welcoming him forward with gentle encouragement. He walked steadily, boots pressing into soft earth, each step measured, his breathing matching the sway of grasses along the path, the night itself setting the pace for his journey. Ahead, a stone wall appeared, low and ancient, moss-covered, stretching along the path, offering a surface to rest a hand or lean against, a companion in quiet support. He traced the wall slowly, feeling its rough texture, each ridge telling stories of centuries past, of travelers long gone, all resting now in silence beneath the night sky. Beyond the wall, the meadow continued, wildflowers bending gently in the breeze, their subtle fragrance rising, filling the air with calm, each step carrying him deeper into the night. He paused briefly to inhale fully, letting the scents settle into his chest, filling him with the patience and gentleness carried by the land itself. Moonlight illuminated his path, reflecting off dew-soaked grasses, creating a faint silver shimmer beneath his boots, guiding him forward without need for lantern or artificial light. A distant farmhouse appeared, roof dark, windows glowing faintly, the warm light a silent beacon, though he passed quietly, not disturbing the night, only observing its subtle comfort. The path curved again, following the land's gentle undulations, carrying him toward a small ridge, the horizon stretching endlessly, inviting him forward with the ease of open air. Fireflies flickered faintly along the edge of the path, drifting upward, dancing among grasses, each tiny glow offering guidance and companionship for the careful traveler moving slowly. The slope rose gently, the wind brushing his face, carrying the scents of pine and soil, comforting and steady, as though nature itself wished him patience and peace. He paused atop the ridge briefly, letting his gaze wander across the hills, the meadows, and distant forests, feeling a profound calm as the land's stillness entered him fully. Descending slowly, he entered a shallow valley, grasses brushing against his legs, their motion rhythmic and hypnotic, guiding his mind toward gentle ease and restful awareness. Ahead, a stream appeared once more, its waters slow and steady, reflecting moonlight, stones beneath clearly visible, carrying a song of quiet, patient movement to soothe the traveler's steps. He knelt, touching the water, letting it flow over his hands, and felt a deep, cooling calm spreading upward, as though the stream offered both refreshment and reassurance. Rising, he followed its curve, the path winding softly, guiding him along the stream's edge, each ripple whispering that he was moving safely, carried by the night's rhythm. The stream bent away beneath low trees, and he continued on a soft slope, dew-brushing boots, each step deliberate, aligning his body with the land's unhurried tempo. A grove of tall pines appeared, their needles thick, creating an almost cathedral-like space, and he stepped beneath them, feeling the forest embrace him gently with shadow and fragrance. His boots sank softly into pine needles, muffling his steps, and he allowed the night to guide him, each movement a gentle continuation of the path already laid before him. The wind stirred branches, their movement creating whispers above, and he followed their cadence, walking as if in dialogue with the trees, his pace dictated by their patient rhythm. Sunlight gone, moonlight alone shaped the world, silvering trunks and stones, revealing a quiet corridor where shadows and light danced gently, welcoming him through each bend of the path. He paused briefly at a clearing, the ground soft, the air rich with the scent of earth and moss, and felt entirely suspended within the night's patient embrace. Fireflies appeared again, weaving arcs through the darkness, their glow small yet constant, creating a trail for him, a subtle map of light across the sleeping landscape. The path curved upward, leading toward the next ridge, and he climbed steadily, feeling the rise in his legs, each step deliberate, each movement part of the night's gentle pulse. At the crest, he paused, gazing out across distant meadows and forests, observing shadows, streams, and distant lights, all resting in harmony beneath the steady watch of stars. Descending slowly, the land opened into another meadow, its grasses silvered with dew, stretching wide, each blade bending softly, guiding him forward with gentle resistance and quiet affirmation. He walked steadily, letting the night guide him, each step falling naturally, each breath measured, until the rhythm of his body merged seamlessly with the rhythm of the land. In the distance, a lone tree rose, broad and steady, silhouetted against the sky, and he approached it, resting briefly beneath its protective branches, embracing the calm it offered. He leaned against the trunk, feeling rough bark under his hand, listening to the night, allowing the grove, the meadow, and the stars to settle deeply within him. Rising, he followed the path onward, descending toward another hidden valley, grasses bending softly in his wake, the night carrying him gently, step by step, toward rest and safety. At the valley's center, he paused once more, watching the moonlight shimmer across the landscape, feeling fully held by the world, entirely part of the night's patient, comforting rhythm. The moon hung high, silvering the valley floor, and he stepped forward slowly, each movement measured, his body and mind aligning with the rhythm of the night's peaceful expanse. A faint mist rose from the low ground, curling around the grass, cool and light, wrapping him softly, as though the land itself offered a comforting, gentle embrace. He walked among the mist, boots sinking slightly into softened earth, feeling each step absorbed by the night, carrying him forward without sound or resistance, only trust. Fireflies rose once more, drifting lazily above the grass, their tiny lights pulsing, weaving patterns across the valley, marking a quiet path that seemed meant solely for him. He paused briefly, letting their subtle glow settle upon him, feeling an invisible rhythm connecting his heartbeat with theirs, a gentle conversation between traveler and night. Beyond the valley, a hill rose gradually, its slopes silvered by moonlight, and he climbed carefully, each step deliberate, attuned to the softness beneath his feet. At the top, he paused again, taking in the view. Meadows stretching endlessly, distant forests dark, and stars shimmering across all, infinite and steady as his calm. Descending the far side, the path curved gently toward a stand of cedars, tall and fragrant, their trunks straight and imposing, yet offering shelter and steady guidance. He entered the grove, letting the needles cushion his steps, inhaling the scent of pine deeply, each breath carrying clarity and the gentle promise of protection. The forest was quiet, alive only in subtle ways, leaves trembling, distant creatures moving softly, a world aware yet patient, allowing him to continue without hurry or fear. He walked among the trees slowly, feet careful, following a faint path formed naturally, the ground soft and steady beneath, the night guiding him with gentle persistence. Small lights appeared ahead, hovering among low shrubs, tiny lanterns of insects moving in arcs, a natural map subtly illuminating his way forward through the shadowed grove. He followed them, matching his steps to their floating rhythm, each blink of light easing him further into the calm of night, his body attuned to the soft music. A brook appeared, its surface silvered by moonlight, moving steadily, quietly, reflecting stars and branches alike, its gentle murmurs carrying peace and slowing any lingering tension in his chest. He crouched to touch the water, letting it run over his hands, cool and soothing, feeling as if it carried away any remaining weariness from his journey. Rising, he followed the brook along a soft slope, the ground thick with moss and pine needles, each step absorbed into the night's patient embrace, steadying his pace. The brook veered left, disappearing beneath a stand of tall oaks, and he continued along the soft trail, letting the trees' shadows guide him gently forward. His lantern glimmered faintly, though it was almost unnecessary, for the moonlight filtered through the trees, casting silver pathways across the path that carried him forward naturally. He paused to breathe, inhaling the earthy scent of moss, leaves, and bark, letting it settle deeply, carrying him inward, aligning his steps with the quiet pulse of night. At the grove's edge, a low stone wall appeared, covered in moss, sturdy and silent, offering support for resting hands, or a brief pause without disturbing the calm around. He ran his hand along the wall, feeling each ridge, each crack, imagining the generations of travelers who had touched it before, all sharing the same patient journey. Beyond the wall, a small meadow opened, grasses shimmering faintly, swaying gently with the wind, and he stepped carefully, letting the landscape fold him into its peaceful rhythm. The path led upward, toward another rise, where fireflies hovered lazily, their lights weaving patterns, guiding him forward, each glow a subtle reassurance that he was moving safely. He walked among them slowly, letting their movement set the pace of his steps, each blink a gentle heartbeat, sensing with the rhythm of his own breathing. At the crest, he paused, gazing out across the valleys below, noting the faint glow of distant cottages, lights resting quietly, and felt the night's full embrace surround him. Descending the slope, he entered a shallow valley, the ground soft and moist with dew, grasses bending around his boots, cushioning each step and guiding him gently onward. A pond appeared, still and mirror-like, reflecting stars and the silhouettes of distant trees, its surface calm steady, and patient, holding the night's rhythm without complaint or hurry. He knelt beside the pond, cupping cool water in his hands, letting it refresh and soothe him, carrying the night's calm deep within his body and spirit. Rising, he followed the path as it curved along the pond, lantern low, moonlight reflecting faintly on the water, guiding his steps with subtle illumination and reassurance. Beyond the pond, the land rose once more, gentle hills rolling ahead, inviting him upward, each step measured, deliberate, steady, aligned with the night's soft, unhurried pulse. On the hillside, grasses bent beneath his feet, fireflies dancing around him, their tiny lights floating lazily, reminding him that even in darkness, guidance appears quietly and without demand. He reached the crest, pausing to rest against a boulder, cool beneath his palm, and gazed out over the plains, observing shadows and light merging softly in silvered moonlight. Descending, the path led toward another grove, this one of slender pines, their trunks dark and fragrant, each step absorbed by soft needles, quieting his footsteps almost completely. He walked slowly, listening to the rustle of branches, the whisper of wind, the gentle murmur of leaves, all weaving together in a melody meant solely to comfort him. A rabbit darted briefly through the shadows, pausing only for a moment, then disappearing, reminding him that life continued quietly, even in the stillness of night. He pressed onward, following the winding path, lantern low, each step measured, each breath slow, blending seamlessly with the rhythm of the forest and the gentle night around him. At the grove's edge, the land opened into a meadow wide and soft, grasses bending under moonlight, each stalk reflecting silver, guiding him forward without force or hurry. He stepped carefully among them, feeling their gentle brush against his legs, inhaling the scent of dew and wildflowers, allowing the meadow to ease his mind and body. In the distance, a line of hills appeared, dark against the silver sky, leading him onward, inviting him to continue, promising that the journey itself was its own reward. The path wound gradually upward, carrying him to a small rise, where wind brushed across his face, fresh and clean, whispering patience into each careful movement he made. At the top, he paused, looking back across the meadows and forests, the light of the moon casting everything in gentle relief, softening edges, revealing the beauty of calm. Descending slowly, he entered a shallow valley, grasses soft beneath his feet, dew moist and fragrant, each step absorbed into the night, leaving no trace behind, only memory. Ahead, a brook emerged, its waters clear and steady, reflecting stars and trees, murmuring softly, a gentle companion guiding him onward through the stillness of night. He knelt beside it, feeling the cool water flow over his fingers, carrying with it a sense of deep calm, as if the land itself was offering patience. Rising, he followed the brook's gentle curve, stepping softly on the earth, letting the water's rhythm merge with his own, carrying him forward without thought or strain. The path bent toward a small grove, its trees tall and still, shadows long and welcoming, as though inviting him to rest briefly beneath their protective canopy. He walked among them, boots pressing softly into the ground, air fragrant with pine and damp earth, inhaling deeply, feeling the forest's presence steady and sustaining him. Fireflies appeared between trunks, drifting lazily, their lights pulsing gently, a reminder that even the smallest glow can guide, carrying reassurance through darkness without demanding recognition. He moved forward slowly, lantern low, trusting in the path, in the night, in the rhythm of earth and sky, letting each step fall naturally into its place. At the grove's far edge, the forest opened into a meadow, wide and silvered, and he walked forward, feeling fully carried by the calm, the night itself guiding him. The meadow stretched endlessly before him, dew sparkling faintly, bending grasses brushing his boots, each step measured, as though the night itself was carrying him gently toward unseen horizons. He inhaled the fresh night air, carrying scents of earth, wildflowers, and distant forests, each breath steadying his heart, aligning his rhythm with the pulse of the tranquil landscape. Ahead, a low hill rose gradually, its slopes bathed in silver moonlight, and he climbed slowly, savoring each step, feeling the night's embrace wrap him in quiet patience. At the crest, he paused, gazing across valleys and distant meadows, streams glittering faintly, trees leaning in shadows, the world alive, yet still, offering a sense of profound calm. Descending carefully, he entered another meadow, grasses whispering softly against each boot, fireflies drifting lazily among the stalks, their gentle glow marking a subtle path through the night. He followed their lights, each blink steady, guiding him forward, his steps slowing to match their rhythm, as though the night had choreographed this gentle, unhurried dance. A faint brook appeared, its waters moving slowly over smooth stones, reflecting the moonlight, singing a soft, constant melody that carried reassurance and eased his travel-worn spirit. Kneeling beside it, he cupped water in his hands, letting the coolness soothe him, each sip bringing refreshment and quiet clarity, a calm that reached far deeper than his body. Rising, he continued along the brook's curve, stepping lightly on the earth, letting the water's whisper guide him, each ripple a gentle message of patience and presence. The brook veered into a grove of tall pines, shadows long beneath their crowns, and he stepped carefully beneath, feeling the canopy embrace him, cocooning him in quiet protection. His boots pressed softly into the pine needle-covered ground, each step absorbed by the forest floor, muffling sound, carrying him gently as though the earth itself moved with him. The night wind brushed through the branches, carrying pine scent, cool and clean, and he inhaled deeply, letting it fill him with calm energy and restful awareness. The path curved, winding upward through the grove, each step deliberate, measured, in harmony with the trees, the night, and the steady, unhurried rhythm of his journey. Fireflies flickered faintly, tiny pulses of light weaving arcs above the path, their glow subtle but constant, a quiet reassurance that the night cared for those who walked slowly. He paused, letting their movement settle into his mind, synchronizing his breathing with their gentle flight, feeling the night's patience permeate every fiber of his being. Beyond the grove, the land opened into a wide meadow, grasses silvered under the moon, swaying with gentle breeze, each movement carrying him softly forward without effort. He walked steadily, boots brushing soft blades, inhaling the night air, feeling the expanse wrap him in calm, as if the meadow itself had paused to embrace him. Ahead, a solitary tree rose, its branches wide and protective, silhouetted against the moon, inviting him to rest briefly beneath its stillness and shelter in the quiet night. He approached and leaned lightly against the trunk, feeling rough bark under his hands, inhaling the earthy scent, allowing the tree's steady presence to ground his wandering spirit. Fireflies gathered around, their lights small yet persistent, weaving patterns above and below, a gentle illumination guiding him forward, reminding him that light appears even in darkness. Rising, he followed the path as it curved along low hills, grasses brushing ankles, each step calm and deliberate, his body moving in harmony with the land's gentle rhythm. The hills led him toward a shallow valley, dew dampening the grass, and he moved slowly, absorbing the night's scent, sound, and subtle movements into his senses completely. A small stream emerged, winding gently through the valley, reflecting the silver moon, carrying the soft murmur of water over stones, a melody both steady and endlessly comforting. He knelt beside it, cupping water, feeling its coolness trickle over his fingers, washing away fatigue and tension, leaving him lighter, ready for the continuation of the journey. Rising, he followed the stream's curve for a short stretch, stepping carefully on soft earth, letting the flow of water guide him gently onward into the unfolding night. The path led him upward through tall grasses, fireflies flickering above, a soft canopy of moonlight guiding his way, each step deliberate, aligned with the rhythm of the earth. At the crest, he paused to breathe, watching the distant valleys stretch away, hills folding into one another under starlight, the night calm, steady, and welcoming. Descending carefully, he entered a grove of birches, their white trunks gleaming faintly, leaves rustling gently in the wind, offering quiet shelter and continuity along his path. Walking among them, he pressed softly against the forest floor, inhaling their crisp, clean scent, each step absorbed, as though the grove itself carried him forward patiently. He paused briefly at a small clearing, grasses bent gently in the breeze, fireflies hovering in arcs, creating soft, shifting patterns that mirrored the calm of his own breath. Beyond the clearing, the land rose again, sloping toward distant hills, and he moved forward, feeling the rise beneath his boots, each step guided by the night's steady pulse. The hills led him to a ridge where he paused, gazing across meadows and forests, noting shadows and light mingling, and allowing himself to be held by the scene's tranquility. Descending into a valley, grasses brushed softly against his legs, fireflies flickering faintly, and he moved slowly, each step careful, carrying himself gently through the sleeping landscape. A pond appeared, still and mirror-like, reflecting stars and the silhouettes of distant trees, its surface smooth and undisturbed, holding the night's calm and steady rhythm without effort. He knelt beside it, letting cool water flow over his hands, feeling refreshed, a sense of patience and calm filling him, carried by the pond's silent presence. Rising, he followed the path as it curved along the pond, lantern dimmed, moonlight providing all he needed, guiding him forward with subtle, constant reassurance. Beyond the pond, hills rose gently, the path winding upward, each step deliberate, measured, the night itself carrying him forward, as if the land had prepared him for the journey. At the crest, he paused, breathing deeply, observing distant forests and meadows bathed in moonlight, streams glinting faintly, the world alive yet peaceful, holding him in quiet contemplation. Descending the far side, the path led into a shallow valley, grasses bending softly, earth moist, each step absorbed, carrying him gently, without effort, guided by rhythm rather than direction. A small grove of pines appeared, their needles dense, ground soft beneath, scent strong and grounding, and he stepped carefully among them, blending seamlessly with the forest's steady presence. He moved slowly, lantern low, observing the subtle movements of night creatures, listening to the soft rustle of branches and distant calls, letting the forest's harmony guide his steps. A fox appeared briefly at the edge of the grove, pausing to watch, then vanished, leaving only a sense of quiet companionship, a reminder that life continues unseen. He continued, boots pressing softly into the forest floor, footsteps absorbed, his pace deliberate, each movement in harmony with the land's unhurried rhythm, flowing with the night. Emerging from the grove, the path opened into a meadow, wide and silvered with moonlight, grasses bending in unison, inviting him forward with gentle encouragement rather than demand. He stepped carefully, allowing each movement to sink into the rhythm of the night. Breath steady, senses attuned to the subtle whispers of air, leaves, and distant water. The path curved upward toward distant hills, rolling softly, and he climbed with care. Boots sinking slightly into the dew-soft earth, each step a meditation upon gentle movement. At the crest, he paused briefly, gazing across the valleys below. Meadows stretching endlessly, forests dark in shadow, and he felt fully held by the night's patient calm. Descending gradually, the land led him into another valley, grasses brushing softly, fireflies flickering faintly above, guiding him onward with light that was subtle, unassuming, yet entirely reliable. A brook appeared, moving slowly over smooth stones, its waters reflecting the moonlight, a steady song filling the valley, and he knelt to cup its cool, soothing flow. Rising again, he followed its course briefly, stepping softly on earth and grass, each movement aligned with the gentle rhythm of water, wind, and the night's unhurried pulse. Beyond the brook, the path rose gently, winding toward a ridge, grasses bending under dew. The night air rich with scent, carrying him forward without effort or urgency. He paused at the crest, gazing across meadows, forests, and distant hills, each bathed in silver moonlight. The world alive, yet peaceful, holding him in quiet contemplation. A lone oak rose at the valley's center, its branches wide, sheltering the ground beneath, inviting him to rest for a moment, offering calm and stillness without expectation. He leaned lightly against the trunk, breathing deeply, feeling the strength of the tree seep into him, carrying reassurance for the next stretch of his nighttime journey. Rising again, he followed the path as it curved toward another rise. Each step deliberate, measured, aligned with the soft rhythm of the night and his own steady breathing. The hills ahead spread gently, their slopes bathed in silver moonlight, and he climbed slowly, savoring each step, letting the night carry him forward in its own quiet way. At the top, he paused, gazing across distant valleys, streams glinting faintly, trees leaning in shadow, observing the world held steady beneath the moon's gentle light. Descending into the next meadow, grasses brushed softly against his legs, dew clinging lightly, and he walked slowly, absorbing the night's calm and allowing it to settle deeply within. Fireflies drifted around him, tiny flickering lights, guiding him without haste, weaving arcs across the meadow, a subtle natural lantern showing him the safest path forward. He walked in quiet rhythm with their flight, each blink of light a gentle signal, syncing with his own breathing, and he felt fully immersed in the night's embrace. He knelt beside it, cupping water in his hands, letting its coolness refresh him, feeling the calm seep into every part of his body, spirit, and mind. Rising, he followed the stream's gentle curve, stepping carefully on soft soil, letting the whispering water guide him. Each ripple a quiet reminder of patience and continuity. The path led him upward through a grove of pines, needles thick beneath his boots, scent sharp and grounding, air cool and clean, carrying him effortlessly into its embrace. He moved slowly, boots sinking slightly into the soft forest floor, listening to the subtle rustle of branches and leaves, blending with the night's natural symphony around him. Fireflies hovered faintly among the trees, their lights soft, consistent, guiding his steps, a delicate dance of illumination that reassured him he was moving safely onward. Exiting the grove, the path led to a rolling meadow, grasses bending in the breeze, moonlight silvering every stalk, inviting him forward with gentle encouragement rather than demand. He stepped carefully, letting his boots sink softly into the damp earth, inhaling the scent of dew and wildflowers, feeling the night settle deeply within him. A distant ridge appeared, the path rising gradually, the horizon stretching endlessly, and he moved forward, guided by the gentle slope, the moonlight, and his calm, measured pace. Climbing the ridge, he felt the air grow cooler, carrying faint scents of pine and soil, and he inhaled deeply, letting the fragrance anchor him in the present. At the top, he paused, gazing out at meadows, forests, and distant hills, streams glimmering faintly, all under the soft glow of moonlight, holding him in peaceful awareness. Descending carefully, he entered a shallow valley, grasses brushing against his legs, dew heavy beneath his boots, each step absorbed, carried softly forward by the night's gentle rhythm. A pond appeared, mirror-like and still, reflecting stars and tree silhouettes, its surface calm, patient, holding the night's balance with quiet, steady precision. He knelt beside it, letting cool water trickle through his fingers, feeling the calm seeped deep into his spirit, refreshing him, aligning him fully with the night. Beyond the pond, gentle hills rose ahead, rolling softly, guiding him upward, each step deliberate, each movement a meditation, perfectly aligned with the night's unhurried pace. On the hillside, grasses bent under his feet, fireflies drifting lazily above, creating small glowing arcs, a natural path of light leading him toward the next ridge. Reaching the crest, he paused briefly, letting his gaze drift across distant valleys and meadows, taking in the stillness, the silvered landscape, allowing the night's calm to settle fully. Descending slowly, he entered a grove of birches, their white trunks glowing faintly, shadows long and soft, offering shelter and quiet guidance for the next stretch of his journey. He moved carefully among them, boots pressing softly into moss and leaves, each step absorbed into the forest floor, blending seamlessly with the night's rhythm. At the grove's edge, a small meadow opened, wide and silvered, grasses shimmering under the moon, inviting him forward, each step slow, each breath aligned with the night. He stepped lightly, letting his body sink into the rhythm of the land. Fireflies hovering faintly around him, their lights pulsing with quiet reassurance. He knelt beside the stream, cupping cool water, letting it run over his fingers, carrying calm into his limbs, quieting tension and easing his spirit for the journey ahead. Rising, he followed its curve gently, stepping softly on the earth, letting the water's quiet song guide him, aligning him fully with the rhythm of night. He moved carefully, boots pressing softly, listening to branches and leaves rustle, fireflies flickering faintly, guiding his steps, merging his rhythm with the forest's unhurried pulse. Exiting the grove, the path opened into a meadow, wide and silvered, grasses bending with gentle breeze, inviting him forward with calm reassurance rather than force. A ridge rose ahead, gentle and rolling, and he climbed steadily, each step deliberate, his body moving in harmony with the night's quiet, patient guidance. At the top, he paused, gazing across distant valleys and forests, streams glinting faintly, the world held in calm balance beneath the moon's soft illumination. Descending, he entered a shallow valley, grasses brushing his legs, dew moist and fragrant. A grove of pines appeared once more, tall and fragrant, their trunks steady, needles soft beneath his boots, offering calm, guidance, and a sense of continuity along the path. He moved slowly, lantern low, listening to the subtle rustle of leaves and distant calls, letting the forest's harmony carry him gently onward, step by step. A rabbit dashed briefly through the shadows, pausing only a moment, then vanished, leaving him reminded that life continues quietly, unseen yet perfectly aligned with the night's rhythm, fully merging with the night's unhurried pulse, carried by calm and steady trust. At last, the land opened into a wide meadow, silvered under moonlight, and he walked forward, feeling completely supported by the night, each step flowing naturally into the next. The meadow stretched endlessly, grasses silvered with moonlight, each blade bending softly under the night breeze, and he moved slowly, feeling the rhythm of the land guiding him forward. He inhaled deeply, the scent of dew, wildflowers, and distant forests filling his lungs, anchoring him fully in the present moment, carrying calm into every movement and thought. The path led upward gently, the land rising in soft hills, moonlight illuminating each curve, and he climbed steadily, feeling the earth beneath him steady and patient with each step. Streams glinting faintly, trees leaning in shadows, holding him in the night's expansive, gentle embrace. Descending slowly, he entered another meadow, grasses brushing softly against his legs, dew clinging lightly, and he walked carefully, letting the night's quiet settle deep within him. Ahead, a shallow brook appeared, its waters calm and clear, reflecting stars and trees, its gentle murmur carrying patience, a soothing melody guiding him forward without hurry or strain. He knelt beside the brook, cupping cool water in his hands, letting the flow refresh and calm him, carrying the night's stillness into every fiber of his body. Rising again, he followed the brook's curve, stepping softly on earth and grass, letting its steady song lead him through the sleeping landscape with confidence and quiet assurance. The path bent upward through a grove of pines, their needles thick beneath his boots, the air fragrant and cool, carrying him gently deeper into the forest's patient embrace. He moved slowly, boots pressing softly into the moss and pine needles, listening to the rustle of leaves and branches, letting the rhythm of the night guide his steps. Fireflies flickered faintly among the trunks, their glow subtle yet steady, guiding him forward like a natural lantern, offering quiet companionship along his careful, deliberate journey. Exiting the grove, he entered another wide meadow, silvered in moonlight, grasses bending gently, welcoming him with open space, carrying him forward without effort, step by step, quietly. He walked steadily, boots sinking slightly into dew-softened earth, inhaling deeply, feeling the night settle fully into his mind and body, merging him with the rhythm of the landscape. Ahead, a low hill rose gradually, its slope bathed in moonlight, and he climbed slowly, each movement deliberate, each step sensing with the calm pulse of the night. At the crest, he paused, gazing across distant valleys and forests, streams glimmering faintly, the landscape serene, the night steady, offering a profound sense of peace and reassurance. Descending, he entered a shallow valley, grasses brushing his legs, dew glistening faintly. Each step absorbed, moving him forward smoothly, carried entirely by the night's quiet guidance. A small pond appeared, mirror-like, reflecting stars and trees, its surface calm and patient. A silent companion holding the balance of night in gentle, unwavering rhythm. He knelt beside it, touching the cool water, letting it flow over his hands, carrying calm into every part of him, refreshing body and spirit simultaneously. Rising, he followed the pond's edge, stepping lightly, letting the moonlight illuminate his path, guiding him gently, each step absorbed into the landscape's patient, quiet rhythm. Beyond the pond, gentle hills rolled before him, slopes soft and forgiving, carrying him forward. Each movement deliberate, each breath steady, aligned with the night's unhurried flow. He paused briefly to breathe deeply, inhaling the night air, feeling the calm settle into his chest, releasing every last trace of tension and fatigue from the journey. The path led upward, gradually toward distant ridges, each slope silvered by moonlight, and he moved steadily. Descending carefully, he entered another meadow, grasses brushing against his legs, dew moist and glistening, moving with deliberate care, fully immersed in the rhythm of the night and landscape. A grove of pines appeared, tall and fragrant, needles thick beneath his boots. A rabbit darted through the shadows, pausing briefly, then vanishing, a gentle reminder that life continues quietly, perfectly aligned with the unhurried rhythm of night and earth. Continuing onward, he pressed through soft grasses and gentle slopes, each step measured, each breath deliberate, letting the night's patient, steady pulse guide him forward effortlessly. The path led to a wide meadow, silvered in moonlight, grasses bending gently, inviting him forward, each movement absorbed into the night's rhythm, carrying him safely across the landscape. He walked slowly, feeling each step sink softly into the dew-dampened earth, inhaling scents of wildflowers, grass, and distant pine, allowing the calm to settle deeply into his being. Ahead, a ridge rose, gentle and rolling, and he climbed steadily, each step deliberate. At the top, he paused, gazing across distant valleys, forests, and streams, observing the serene landscape, feeling fully held by the night's patient and quiet rhythm. Descending slowly, he entered a shallow valley, grasses brushing his legs, dew clinging faintly. Each step absorbed, carried smoothly forward by the night's calm guidance. A small grove of birches appeared, trunks pale and glowing faintly, shadows soft. A soft breeze stirred branches, rustling leaves lightly, carrying the scent of pine and damp earth, filling him with calm, guiding him steadily onward without need for thought. At the grove's edge, a meadow opened, wide and silvered under moonlight, grasses bending gently, guiding him with gentle light, offering reassurance and companionship in the still night. Beyond the meadow, a shallow stream appeared, waters reflecting stars, moving slowly over stones, murmuring softly, carrying patience, offering a steady melody to soothe him through the journey. He knelt beside it, cupping cool water in his hands, letting it flow over him, carrying calm into his spirit, refreshing him fully and easing every trace of fatigue. Rising, he followed the stream's curve, stepping softly, allowing the water's rhythm to guide him, aligning his steps with the gentle pulse of the night. The path led upward through a grove of pines, needles thick beneath his boots, scent sharp and grounding, carrying him effortlessly into the night's calm embrace. He moved slowly, listening to rustling leaves and distant calls, boots pressing softly, blending with the night's rhythm. each step deliberate, carrying him forward gently, fully immersed in the world. Fireflies flickered faintly among the trunks, lights small yet constant, guiding him forward, a quiet companion through the shadows, providing reassurance and illumination for his careful journey. Exiting the grove, he entered a wide meadow, silvered with moonlight, grasses swaying softly, inviting him forward with gentle encouragement, each step falling naturally into the night's rhythm. He walked steadily, inhaling the scents of dew, grass, and wildflowers, letting the night settle fully within him, every movement and breath absorbed into its calm, gentle pulse. Ahead, rolling hills rose softly, their slopes bathed in silver moonlight, and he climbed deliberately, each step steady, aligned with the land's patient, quiet guidance, moving effortlessly forward. At the final crest, he paused, gazing across valleys, meadows, forests, and streams, moonlight illuminating all, feeling completely carried by the night, fully at peace, ready to rest at last.